The rain arrives without warning, as it always does in the monsoon season. One moment the jungle breathes in slow, humid rhythm. The next, the sky splits open, and water falls in sheets so thick the canopy itself seems to dissolve. In the undergrowth, where light barely penetrates even on clear days, a tigress moves with urgent purpose, her orange and black stripes rendered nearly invisible by the curtain of rain and shadow. Behind her, 3 cubs struggle to keep pace, their small paws slipping on moss-covered roots that have turned treacherous in seconds. They are 3 months old, barely weaned. Their bodies still round with the softness of infancy, but their eyes already sharp with the alertness that survival demands. The smallest of the 3, a male, his stripes slightly paler than his siblings, pauses for just a heartbeat to shake water from his face. 1 second, that's all it takes. When he looks up again, his mother and brother and sister have vanished into the green-black maze ahead, and the forest, which moments ago felt like home, has become an endless, hostile labyrinth. The cub calls out, a high-pitched chirp that would normally bring his mother wheeling back with low, reassuring rumbles. But the rain devours the sound before it travels more than a few meters. He begins to run in the direction he thinks they went, his legs pumping furiously. But the ground beneath him is changing, softening, turning to mud that sucks at his paws with each step. He doesn't understand yet what's happening, that the monsoon rains have swollen the network of streams threading through this valley, that water is rising from below as well as falling from above. He only knows that he's alone, that the scent trail he's trying to follow is being washed away, and that a new sound is building beneath the rain's thunder. A deeper, more ominous rushing that makes something ancient in his bones recoil with instinctive fear. He crests a small rise and stops. Below him, where hours ago there was only a narrow creek, a torrent of brown water churns between the trees, carrying branches, tangles of vine, and debris he can't identify. The current is perhaps 15 meters wide and moving with terrifying speed, frothing white around rocks and fallen logs. On the far side, barely visible through the rain, he sees movement, a flash of orange. His mother. She's already across, already leading his siblings to higher ground, and she's calling now, a sound that cuts through the storm's chaos. But between them is that impossible river, and he's never swum anything deeper than a shallow pool. He paces the bank. Mewling and his mother calls again, urgent, commanding. She cannot come back. The water is too fast now, and she has 2 other cubs to protect. The choice is his alone, stay and be lost, or cross and rejoin the only safety this world offers. He enters the water. The cold shocks his system, its runoff from somewhere high in the mountains, carrying the chill of elevation and storm. For the first few steps, it's only chest deep, but then the ground drops away beneath him, and suddenly he's swimming, paddling frantically with legs that know the motion only from instinct. The current catches him immediately. It's like being seized by some vast, invisible predator, far stronger than anything he's ever encountered, and it begins dragging him downstream at an angle, away from his mother's voice. He fights with everything he has, his small head held high above the churning surface, water streaming into his eyes and nose. He can hear his mother roaring now, a sound of rage and anguish that echoes across the flood, but he's being swept away too fast. A submerged branch slams into his side, spinning him around, and for a terrifying moment his head goes under. He surfaces gasping, still paddling, but the strength is beginning to drain from his limbs, replaced by a leaden exhaustion that spreads from his muscles into his very core. The river carries him around a bend, and his mother's voice disappears. He's utterly alone now, caught in forces far beyond his control. His paddling has become mechanical, desperate, no longer aimed at any destination, but simply at keeping his head above water one more second, one more breath. He doesn't see the fallen tree until he's almost upon it, a massive hardwood that's toppled across the river, creating a temporary dam of branches and debris. The current slams him into it with bruising force, and on instinct his claws extend, digging into bark. For a moment he hangs there, half submerged, body pressed flat against the trunk by the water's pressure. Then, with a final surge of strength pulled from somewhere he didn't know existed, he hauls himself up onto the log, scrambles across its slippery surface, and collapses on the far bank in a shallow eddy where the water merely laps instead of tears. He lies there as the rain continues to fall, his sides heaving, water streaming from his soaked fur. He's shaking uncontrollably, from cold, shock, exhaustion. The forest around him is utterly foreign, different trees, different smells, different sounds. He has no idea which direction his mother went, no sense of where he is. As his breathing gradually slows toward normal, a new feeling creeps in. A vast, hollow loneliness that echoes in his chest. He's never been more than a few meters from his mother in his entire life. Night is coming. He can feel it in the changing quality of the darkness, the way even the dim grey light filtering through the canopy is beginning to fade toward black. He needs to find shelter, but his body feels impossibly heavy. Eventually, driven by instinct he doesn't understand but cannot ignore, he drags himself into a thicket of ferns at the base of a massive strangler fig. The tangle of roots and undergrowth creates a kind of cave, not dry, but at least sheltered from the worst of the downpour. He curls into himself, trying to conserve what body heat remains, and listens to the jungle's night sounds emerging from behind the rain's curtain. There are things moving in the darkness, rustlings and snaps and occasional calls that make his ears flatten instinctively. Without his mother's protection, every sound is a potential threat. Wild boar might attack if they stumbled upon him. Pythons hunt the forest floor at night. And somewhere in this wilderness, there are other tigers, adult males who would kill a cub that wasn't their own without hesitation. The night stretches ahead like an infinite abyss, and he's so small, so cold, so utterly unprepared. The rain slows sometime in the deepest part of night, though the dripping continues, the forest releasing absorbed water back to the ground in constant patter. The cub drifts in and out of a fitful state that isn't quite sleep, his body desperate for rest, but his mind too wired with fear to surrender. He doesn't notice when another presence enters his sheltered hollow, drawn perhaps by the same geography that offers minimal protection. He only becomes aware when he catches a scent that makes his eyes snap open. Something large, herbivorous, alive. His pupils dilate, trying to catch any available light, and slowly a shape resolves itself. A sambar deer, an adult female, perhaps 2 years old. She's limping badly, one rear leg clearly injured, perhaps broken during her own desperate flight from the rising water. Her sides are heaving, her coat plastered flat with rain, and in her eyes is the same exhausted terror that must mirror his own. For a long moment they stare at each other. Every instinct the cub possesses screams that this is prey, that tigers hunt deer. But he's 3 months old, barely weaned, and this deer is 5 times his size. Every instinct the deer possesses screams that this is a predator, that she should flee. But her leg is ruined and she's already run as far as her body will carry her. They are both at the absolute edge of their capacity to survive. Neither attacks, neither flees. In the face of something larger than their ancient enmity, the sheer indifferent brutality of the storm, they simply exist in the same small space. 2 creatures reduced to the most basic imperative: make it to dawn. The deer settles awkwardly at the opposite side of the hollow, her injured leg extended, and begins to lick the wound with methodical focus. The cub watches her, his heart rate gradually slowing. He's still cold, still alone, but somehow the presence of another living thing makes the darkness feel slightly less absolute. As the hours creep toward morning, something unexpected happens. The deer's body, larger and holding more heat, begins to warm the small enclosed space. Her breathing creates a microclimate that, while not warm, is measurably less brutal than the night outside. The cub, almost without realizing it, edges slightly closer, drawn by that promise of warmth. The deer tenses, watches him with large, dark eyes, but doesn't move. Perhaps she's too injured, perhaps too exhausted, or perhaps she recognizes that the cub is no threat, not tonight. He settles again, now close enough to hear her breathing, feel the slight shift of air when she moves. It's not his mother, it's not his siblings, but it's life and warmth. And in this moment, that's enough. His eyes finally close, and this time he sleeps, his small body surrendering to exhaustion. The deer doesn't sleep, cannot afford to with her instincts screaming warnings, but she rests, and the 2 of them, predator and prey, both reduced to their most vulnerable selves, survive the night together. Dawn comes slowly, the darkness gradually becoming less absolute. The rain has stopped completely, leaving the forest dripping and transformed. The air is clean and sharp, scrubbed of heavy scents, leaving only wet earth and broken vegetation. The cub wakes to birdsong, parakeets and babblers reclaiming the air, and for a brief moment before his eyes open, he forgets where he is. Then, memory crashes back. The deer is standing now, or trying to, balancing awkwardly on 3 legs. She looks at him with an expression that might be wariness or might be something else entirely. For a moment, they regard each other in the grey morning light. Then the deer turns, slowly and painfully, and begins to limp out of the hollow, each step clearly agonizing. The cub watches her go. Then, driven by impulse he doesn't understand, he follows. The deer makes her way through the transformed forest with surprising determination. She's heading upslope away from the valley where water still runs high, toward higher ground where flooding hasn't reached. She moves in painful hops, her injured leg held completely off the ground, pausing frequently to rest and test the air. The cub trails behind at several meters distance, keeping her in sight. He doesn't know why he's following, doesn't have language for the thought that she seems to know where she's going. They move like this for perhaps 2 hours, climbing gradually through terrain that grows rockier and drier. The deer stops to browse occasionally on fresh shoots, and once the cub catches a large beetle and devours it, the small protein barely registering in his empty stomach. The sun breaks through the canopy and shafts, and steam begins to rise from wet ground, and the jungle slowly returns to normal rhythm. Then the deer stops suddenly, her entire body going rigid. The cub freezes too, reading her body language. Her ears swivel forward, locked on something ahead. She makes a soft sound, almost a sigh, and begins moving again with renewed purpose despite the pain. The cub follows, and they crest a small ridge. Below them, join a clearing where a large tree has fallen and opened the canopy, a sight that stops his heart. His mother. She's there, perhaps 50 meters away, her massive form unmistakable. She's searching, pacing in widening circles, calling periodically with desperate sound. His 2 siblings are nearby, staying close. They survived the crossing. They made it to high ground. And his mother has been searching for him through the night and into dawn. The cub doesn't think. He simply runs, bursting from undergrowth with a cry that's half joy and half relief. His mother's head snaps around, and for an instant her entire body goes still with disbelief. Then she's running too, covering the distance in seconds, and they collide in a tumble of orange fur and desperate nuzzling. She smells him all over, checking for injuries, rumbling deep sounds that vibrate through his small body. His siblings bound over, play attacking him with relieved aggression. For several minutes it's chaos, the family reunited, the impossible made real. The mother licks her smallest cub from head to tail, cleaning away the river smell and the night's terror. Only after several minutes does she lift her head and look back toward the ridge where the cub emerged. The sambar deer is still there, a broken silhouette against the morning sky, watching with those large, dark eyes. For a long moment, tiger and deer regard each other across the clearing, ancient enemies, joined for one night by necessity. Then the deer turns and limps away into the forest, and the tigress watches her go without pursuit, without aggression, as if she understands something has occurred that sits outside the normal rules. The sun continues its climb, burning off morning mist and beginning the long work of drying the saturated jungle. The tigress leads her cubs away from the flood zone, heading toward a den she knows in the hills. The smallest cub stays close to her side now, pressed against her flank, no longer lagging. He's learned something in the last 12 hours that normally takes much longer to teach. The jungle is vast and powerful and utterly indifferent to desire or fear. Survival sometimes hangs on moments measured in seconds, on decisions made without thought, on strength found when there seems to be nothing left. He's also learned something harder to name, that the categories his young mind is learning to impose on the world sometimes blur in the face of larger forces. That warmth shared in darkness doesn't ask about species or instinct. That 2 creatures fleeing the same storm might shelter together because of something deeper, some recognition that in the face of nature's magnitude, all life is fragile, all survival provisional. By midday, the family reaches higher ground where trees are different, more teak and bamboo. Here the earth is firm and a small cave provides shelter with clear views. The mother settles and her cubs pile against her, nursing and sleeping in safety. The smallest cub, exhausted beyond measure, falls into deep dreamless sleep pressed against her belly, feeling her heartbeat steady and strong. Outside, the jungle continues its recovery, water receding, animals emerging, the great cycle resuming. In a distant part of the forest, a young sambar deer with a broken leg finds a thicket of bamboo where she can rest, and perhaps if she's lucky and infection doesn't set in, she might survive. And in the cave in the hills, a tiger cub sleeps, alive against impossible odds, saved by luck and current and instinct. And 1 second that somehow became not an ending, but a beginning. The forest keeps its secrets. What remains is the fact of survival, small and orange and still breathing, curled against warmth. Life persists, as it always has, finding ways to continue against all odds. That is the only miracle the jungle knows, and it is enough.